And what I've found is that the more you dip in and out of ketosis, your body almost becomes like bilingual in a sense of the types of macros that it can burn.
This episode is brought to you by Basic Keto Box. Basic Keto Box is a premium subscription box for keto dieters. It offers a wide variety of keto-friendly snacks delivered right to your door. Not only that, with your subscription box, you also get a 30-day meal plan that includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner, complete with macronutrients in every meal. We have an exclusive deal just for Ketones and Coffee podcast listeners. Receive an extra 20% off with your first month subscription. Head on over to basicketobox.ca to subscribe today. Hey guys, welcome to the Ketones and Coffee podcast, where I bring in guests to discuss their own personal experience with a ketogenic diet. Our next guest is a keto lifestyle coach. In addition, she is also a science teacher with a degree in biology. With her natural ability in teaching, she has gained a lot of loyal clients over the years. Let's now hear from Coach Lindsay on how she found keto. Morning.
Good. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. And
Yes, thank you for having me.
yeah. So I want to dive right in. I really been looking forward to this all week long, and I'm so excited, and I'm a bit nervous at the same time. Maybe you could tell. But I'm really anxious to have you on. I think we can really bring value to people here. So
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah,
so
I'm looking forward to it too.
so I was reading up on your bio on your blog, and I always like to start with people, uh, you know, with how they got started with keto, and I think we can hone in into on the beginning stages, and we could maybe help people finally make a change.
Definitely. Yeah. So my journey started in 2018. I had just had my first child,
Mm-hmm.
and he was born in May. And during my pregnancy with him, I had always, I was athletic when I grew up. I played sports. I never, fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, I never really learned good healthy habits because I never really had to try hard. I think when I was like a travel softball athlete, and being part of that competitive sports environment almost like tricked me into working out because I was playing a game. So I didn't really view it like I was working out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stopped playing, competitive sports, I got a little bit older. I was pregnant. It just hit me really, really hard. And I gained about 60 pounds with my
Mm.
pregnancy. And now, the recommendation is that you gain about 25 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
I flying past my max goal, and my doctors would reset the bar and reset the bar. And, I naively thought that after I gave birth, I would sort of just hop back to normal. And so fast forward about 3 or 4 months after he was born, I had lost a grand total of 7 pounds. And,
Mm.
he was a 7 pound baby. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of stuck in a rut. My husband and I knew that we wanted to have more than one kid. I wanted them to, I had to get myself in a spot to do this all over again. Otherwise, it's really not going to be healthy for me to try and have another kid. And so I did Weight Watchers for a little bit. I tried working out, even though I was like exhausted and then trying to figure out how to be a new mom, and nothing, kind of, slipping into, like, I guess I would say I was feeling a little bit depressed and kind of hopeless about this is like my new normal. And so when I started keto, I was in a very almost like I almost started it out of spite, if I'm being completely honest, because so many things had not worked for me.
Mm.
And I saw people with their results on keto, and I thought, you know what, let me just scratch this off the list because I bet you this also isn't going to work for me.
Mm,
So that's like mentally where I was when I started. And, fast forward 2 years from that point, I now have two children.
mm-hmm.
I've gone up and down. I was in a healthy place to get pregnant a second time. And now I'm in like my second phase of weight loss. And my daughter is now 7 months old.
So when you first found the keto diet, did you think that it was just a fad diet, or what was it that made you reluctant to keto?
So I sort of, I, I hadn't heard a lot about it. So my impression that it was just another fad diet. The biggest difference for me, I think the reason I was reluctant is that I had tried other things before, and I would look at the world through this lens of everything I couldn't eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really have a good guideline of what to follow. So I was trying low fat, I was trying low carb, um, and I was miserable. And it was this really like a lot of negative self-talk about like, you know, why is this so difficult for me? I would see all these other women who have had children and then their body snaps back in like 2 months. And I'm like, I'm just built
Yeah.
different. And I was just so angry. I would be like, I can't eat that. I can't have that. I can't drink that. And yeah, so when I did keto, I thought, why would this be any different?
So you've lost about, you said, 60 plus pounds?
So yeah, so I actually in my first, postpartum weight loss after my son was born, I lost 60 pounds. So I lost everything that I had gained in my pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, a hair more. I was about 2 pounds under my pre-pregnancy weight when I got pregnant. Since, and I was much more careful in my second pregnancy, so I didn't gain as much weight. But, even still, I went over the recommended amount. I probably gained like 40 pounds with her. And so now I'm about 20 pounds down from that point, and another 20 to get me back to like ground zero of where I started before children.
Interesting. So take me back to your first few weeks in keto, and what was it that helped you get over that hump? Because when I started, I knew of the keto flu,
Mm-hmm.
but it was hard going through that for me. And what was it like for you?
So I don't think I experienced the keto flu the same way that I've heard other people.
Interesting.
Fortunately, I've had bouts of dizziness and kind of like low energy. But what
Mm-hmm.
I have found, two things. I think that having a good balance of electrolytes is really, really important. And so some people take electrolytes as a supplement. Some people use exogenous ketone packets
Right, right.
to help them boost their energy and get through that. And what I've found is that the more you dip in and out of ketosis, your body almost becomes like bilingual in a sense of the types of macros that it can burn. And so the first time you get in ketosis will be the most difficult. And then your cells almost have like a metabolic memory.
Mm.
And when you come out of ketosis and go back in, the process happens more easily, in the subsequent times that you get into it.
That's interesting that you said that, because when I started, it was hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the first 2 weeks was I didn't have energy, just overall soreness in my body, and then after that, everything was fine. But when I would have cheat days and I would indulge myself, because I was still figuring this out. When I go back into ketosis, it would be easier for me. The
Yeah,
transition will be easier for me,
yeah,
and
and that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I didn't know of this,
Mhm.
that your body would be, you said bilingual. I've never heard anyone talk about that,
Hmm.
about how it's so much easier to get back into ketosis. Amazing. So let me talk to you about your coaching. I love that you're a coach, and and I talked to one other coach, and it really inspires me because I know and I believe keto would be one of the main diets, not just a fad diet. That's what people are saying on the internet, and I think there's a lot of misinformation around
Absolutely.
out there, and it social media has been really great for information because you see people
Mhm.
uh, go through the experiences, and having great success with keto. So
Yeah,
what
definitely.
what is it about coaching that keto that has drawn you to it?
Yeah. So, when I experienced, the success that I had in eating this way, I also, at that period of time, had my mom and my sister jump on board to support me and say, you know what, we're going to do this with you. We're going to do this alongside you. And we would have a group text message going of recipes that we would share, and we'd take pictures of our dinners and our snacks. And it just, even though it was only two other people doing it with me, it
Mm.
felt like I had such a network of support in them. And another piece to this, my background is that I am a high school biology teacher. And
Mm.
so it's kind of in my nature to want to educate. And I felt that, you know, why not kind of just offer my knowledge and my experience to other people, because I know how tough it is to embark on this if you don't have people in your household that are eating the same way, and if you're trying to navigate going out to restaurants and interpreting the menu, and if you're allowed to have certain things or if it's going to keep you on track or not. So yeah, the idea just kind of popped in my head, and I figured, why not start slow? And I made an Instagram account, and I kind of taught myself how to code a little bit
Yeah,
and made a website. And here we are 2 years later.
that's awesome. It was hard for me because transitioning into the keto diet, I was dabbling into low fat diets,
Hmm.
and I was also a yo-yo dieter. I would have a goal set for summer, and then what I would do, uh, I would basically work out 5 days a week, and
Hmm.
and go on a caloric deficit. But after that goal, I would always go back to my old habits that
Yep.
really became not sustainable for me,
Hmm.
and I've grown frustrated with it. And Um, I found keto diet from my cousin, and he was doing it. He lost a lot of weight, but at that time, I didn't really know what keto was. I didn't ask him what keto was. But
Hmm.
when I did my research, I started early this year with keto, and
Hmm.
um, wanting to lose weight because of quarantine and
Yeah.
all that. I gained a lot of weight,
Yep.
and I said, and I was really um, frustrated with gaining weight and then losing weight, and how hard it is for me to lose the weight. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking for that lifestyle mm, that's sustainable for me. And
Definitely.
I found keto diet, and they said I could have bacon, so
Heck
sign me
yeah.
up.
Same. Yeah,
So
this
no.
is it's definitely something that I find to be sustainable. I mean, I never stuck with anything, which is why I think I struggled so much, because like you, I would go 150% into something for anything that I felt I could really maintain and be happy at the same time. So this, being allowed to have the full fat cheeses and the bacon and the things that really give your food those amazing flavors, I feel like I will in some ways always be in the keto mentality. And there is definitely a balance to, once I reach my goal weight, I walking that line, like I said, of being in and out of ketosis and helping my cells to burn both carbs and fats equally. I think that that's a line that I will kind of always walk on, and then manage it with knowing how to lose the weight with keto. So, yeah.
So you talked about ketogenic mentality into your
Mhm.
daily life. What's that? What's a ketogenic mentality in your own words?
So there was once I started this, there was a definite mental shift in how I viewed food. And there was a specific moment that I remember as a pivot point for me where, like, my weakness is a big bacon, egg, and cheese on an
Mm.
everything bagel. Like, I wake up and I want a bagel every morning. Or previously, I mean, I think it'll always be in me a little bit. But there was a moment where I was walking through the grocery store. And like I said earlier, I used to view the world as, I can't have that. And why can't I have these things? And this is miserable. And I was in the grocery store and I saw a woman at the fresh bakery section loading one of those like brown paper bags full of fresh bagels. And usually I would look at something like that and just drool
Mm.
over it. And I walked by, I kind of side glanced at her and was like, ugh, thinking like that hunk of bread is going to do nothing for her in terms of fueling her body. And I walked by and was like, oh my God, that's the first time I've ever walked by a bagel. And like, not even, it changed the way that I view food, truly, instead of as an indulgence, more of like the fuel that powers your body. And, knowing what I know about, having a degree in biology, the energy that you get from a gram of fat is about 1.5 times more energy than you get from a gram of carbs, which is why, when you have a lot of carbs, you have an energy spike followed
Mm.
by a crash. And with fats, it's kind of like a longer, slower burning molecule. But it's a more efficient energy source when you think about like what you're actually eating.
So I love that you talked about fat, um, because there's a lot. I have no idea how to explain this to people when they talk about keto diet with me, and whenever I said it's you have to have 70% fat. It because keto diet is macros.
Right,
It's not so much what you eat. It's so
right.
much what you put in your body in your fat, your fat content, your carbs, and your protein.
Yep, yep.
So I have no idea how to explain it to my parents. First of all, they and I'm so glad that your sister and your mom got on board with this, and how they looked at it when they first heard of it, and how do you explain this to people?
So basically, there are, like you said, you have carbs, you have fats, and you have protein. And in your body, those are the fuels that can power your cells. And your body's first choice of energy is always going to be to burn carbs because it is a fast burning molecule. It's an easy, accessible energy source. And which is why, I tell my clients, if you have like I don't know if you know what pixie sticks are, but it's like a tube
Mm-hmm.
of sugar. It's like a candy for little kids, and
Yep,
it's like
yep.
a little straw filled with sugar. And so I tell people, if you eat a pixie stick, you're going to have an energy spike really fast because that's an easy energy source for your cells to burn. And so if you're eating carbs in a high enough proportion, your body will never tap into your fat reserves because it will
Mm.
always be your second choice, your cell's second choice of energy, because it's harder to burn. It takes longer to burn. So if you keep your proportion of carbs low enough, your body will be forced to choose fats for fuel as their second choice. The reason, just also a little side tangent, the reason that protein is your last choice for your cells is because your body is primarily made, like your muscle mass, your organs are made of proteins. So evolutionarily, your body's not going to start breaking down your proteins because that's the really important stuff. But it will do carbs first and then fats before it gets to protein. So you want to balance the low carb with the high fat and moderate protein, which is what puts your cells into like a nutritional ketogenic state. I have found is that it's also really important that I'll, include this in your mentality of doing keto, is that I have found that it is much more effective if you also incorporate intermittent fasting, which is basically giving your body a break from digesting solid food. So I typically think about it as like a 16 and 8. Mm-hmm. So an 8-hour window of when you eat. So like if I have my first meal at 11 in the morning, I want to be finished with dinner by 7 p.m. And then you have a 16-hour window from 7 p.m. to 11 the following morning. And that really allows your body to start using your stored fat to fuel your cells. And that's where people really see that weight loss start to happen.
How would you said 16 and 8. How would you say, how would I incorporate this in my life? First of all, I love how to... Can you still hear me?
Oh, you froze for a quick second. I can hear you now, though.
Okay, so I love how you phrased that answer, and I think people would really now they would understand why there's so much fat content in the keto diet. And thank you so much for that answer. And if I were to incorporate this in my life, what would be your advice for me if I really want to be successful? Say I have never known of keto. Have you ever got that? Have you ever got a client that didn't really know what keto was, but on the somebody that needs to make a drastic change in their life? Where
Definitely.
do they start? Where do they start?
So I think, I get a lot of clients that are like, I've seen the transformation photos. I want to be one of those transformation photos. I will follow whatever rules you give me. Just tell me what to do. And I think a big part of it is that when I coach people, like, I'm not making any of this up. I'm not inventing this diet and this way of eating. The information is out there. So, but it is flooded with so much misinformation. And I think having a coach kind of weed through all of that misinformation and just tell you what you need to know, call you weekly and make sure and hold you accountable. The first step is reaching out for support. And so when people come to me, they've already started in a good place. And so the first thing that I'll tell them is I'll educate them. Our first session is usually like an hour-long kind of like a class on keto and how it works, and educating people on where hidden sugars lie and ways to navigate like a restaurant menu and just the whole idea of how it works. And from there, it's a very customized approach. I do not have a one-size-fits-all way of coaching people, because some people like to track macros. They want all the information. They want to enter everything into an app. They want to track their water. Other people are like, I can't mess with that. I don't have time for that. It feels like work. It's too tedious. So I kind of, there's different approaches to how I coach depending on the person's personality. For myself, I will say that I have had the success that I've had without exercising, without tracking macros. I basically I weigh in once a week. I check my ketones once a week. And if I'm still in ketosis and if I'm moving in the direction I want to be moving in, regardless of how fast or slow, if I'm inching my way there, I get in a rhythm. I'm a very habitual eater. I like to have the same thing for breakfast and lunch every day. And then I kind of rotate through different dinners. It helps me with budgeting my groceries. It helps me with meal prep. So I kind of just, some people are relieved to find that there is a no pressure way of doing this. And, it doesn't have to be something that consumes your thought process 24 hours a day, which I think a lot of people find surprising.
That's amazing. You know what? I was talking to my cousin. He was asking me about keto, and because his brother wanted to be, wanted to make a lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was talking to him about keto, and he was so surprised about. He know that I know it's no carbs, no sugar. Well,
Mm-hmm.
relatively. So he was asking me about like, does does banana have carbs? Does this have carbs? Can I eat this? Can I eat that? They're so surprised that
Yeah.
they didn't know all of these foods
Yeah.
are,
I
have
had
this so much sugar.
It's funny that you had done her own background research and was so frustrated. She's like, Lindsay, I am following all of I know I'm doing it correctly. I am working out. I'm doing hot yoga and I'm gaining weight. She's like, I'm gaining weight. I'm gaining weight. What is going on? So I had her like for a couple of days, I had her write down everything she was eating just so that I had information of like, what could be going on. Come to find out, she was having about 3 bananas a day. And I was like, there's 32 carbs in a banana. So she was unknowingly having close to 100 carbs a day when your max is supposed to be 20. And so she cut the bananas. And then, she has been one of my most successful clients. She's been on for about a year and a half. She's lost like 80 pounds. So it's just like, oh my God, sometimes there's just one little shift that you have to make. And that's the trick. There was another client who was chewing a couple of pieces of sugar-free gum.
Mm.
Sugar-free, it's calories, but some of the artificial sweeteners sort of are so similar in their molecular structure to sugar that your body can't actually tell the difference. And so your body will process that molecule as if it's sugar. And so that was another little shift that we had to make. And then boom, then she was on her way. So that's the added benefit of having a coach, is like another set of eyes on your habits to kind of maybe catch some things that you're not seeing.
Yeah, and it's hard to break habits. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
it's their conditioning from they were little, and from the food pyramid, you have to have this much
Mm-hmm.
carbs in your diet,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so much misinformation out there.
There's actually, I've done some, my own research, and there's a study that I read that really shifted things for me, where I guess in the 70s, there was a group of scientists in the sugar industry that were paid off, that were literally bribed to spread misinformation about the link between sugar and heart disease, and to
Mm-hmm.
point the blame at fats and at the fat industry. And I think
Mm.
that that's one of the reasons that there is so much misinterpretation of the information out there, because people are conditioned to think that fats make you fat. And, in
Mm-hmm.
our own experience, that if you load up on sugar and candy and bread, it's carbs that make you fat. And it's carbs that lead to inflammation in your body and, like metabolic health issues.
That's a issue with a lot of people, where it's hard for them to break those habits. It's a lot harder for them to change their lifestyle, and there are people out there that are willing to take pills rather
Yeah.
than to make a change.
Yeah.
And that's awareness for you. And when you go to your doctor and ask about keto, guess what? They're gonna say, I don't recommend it. I'm not saying all doctors are
Mhm.
like that,
Yeah,
but
I actually I've had a different experience. I think, my husband um, did speak with his doctor. I always think it's a good idea to loop in a medical professional, or a nutritionist or someone certified and educated, before you kind of go on this route and make these changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of to practice what I preach, I myself spoke with my doctor. I had my husband speak with his doctor. And I don't know if there's a shift in the medical industry even, or if it's starting to really catch on, but both my doctor and my husband's doctor were thrilled that we were going to shift to keto. And they couldn't say enough great things about it.
Wow.
So maybe it'll catch on.
Maybe. I think they made a recent change with the food pyramid and the fat content of the food pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I love it. I love that happened for you. When I asked my
Yeah.
doctor, I guess she said she doesn't recommend it. But that's another topic for another day. But yeah, let's go to your testimonials, and you're getting a lot of great reviews from your clients that has found success with your coaching. So let me read one to you.
Sure.
So one of your clients said, "I love having the feeling of accountability to her, and she makes it easy, And I'm cutting to the end here. Lindsay, help make this attainable and sustainable for me." So the common theme that I've found from all of your reviews were, accountability. And what are your practices to make sure that your clients make themselves accountable? Say if they don't have somebody that could do the keto diet for them with them, what do you recommend?
Well, I think first and foremost, anyone that is a client, I think that, one of the things I offer is for my monthly clients, I offer unlimited Q&A over text message. So a person doesn't have to wait until our weekly session to, save up their questions. If they're in the grocery store and they have a question about something, they text me a picture of the nutrition label and they're like, "Hey, is this okay?" Or if
Really?
someone is, at a restaurant, I've literally gotten pictures of menus at restaurants, and I will open the picture and I'll be like putting like red X's on things or like green check marks, and I send the picture back to them and I'm like, "Here you go. Here's your plan." So I think that there's a friendship that develops, and there's just, I'm truly in their corner, and I think they feel that. And I've had clients that said, "Lindsay, I wanted to cheat 4 times this week, but I didn't want to have to lie to you. So I didn't cheat so that I could be honest in our session and tell you how proud I am that I didn't cheat." So
That's awesome.
yeah, I think just having that common thread and that open communication, not only during our sessions, but between the sessions throughout the week, is really important.
Wow, that's great. And that must be really frustrating when you're in the grocery store, because I rarely find things in the grocery store that are keto,
Yeah,
first of
it's
all.
hard to navigate.
Yeah, and for me, just, they were had the grocery store would have snacks, because I'm big with snacks, right? When I changed to the
Mm-hmm.
keto diet, okay, there's an aisle for snacks, and I could go there weekly and grab snacks.
Yeah.
But as I continue on with my keto journey, and I found the same snacks over and over, I got bored really quick.
Yeah.
So snacking for me has been one of the tools that I
Yeah.
use to make the diet sustainable. So
Absolutely.
what are the tools that you can uh, say with coaching? Well,
Mhm.
that's one tool that they could use. What else could they utilize to make their diet more sustainable?
So I think that you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned that if you're snacking on the same thing over and over again, you get bored. And I also mentioned previously in this podcast that I am a pretty habitual eater. I do like to eat the same thing for breakfast and lunch and rotate through dinners. And while on the one hand, some people might think, "Oh, I could never do that." On the other hand, I do make it varied with what I eat. So I'll go for like, a 10-day period of being on a certain breakfast and lunch kick. And then I'll have, like this past week, I was really craving pizza. Normally I'll be eating like salmon and asparagus or like a bunless burger or like this ham and cheese chicken recipe. And I just wanted to throw in the towel and order a giant Hawaiian pizza. And I thought, you know what? I've got to cycle in some of my keto carbs. I'm saying that in quotes, my keto carb recipes, like my keto bagel recipe or keto pizza or keto like ricotta pancakes. So I listen to my body and kind of what I'm craving, and I allow myself to just be smart about swapping out the ingredients, but still having the things and the flavors that I want to be having. And I do the same thing for my clients. I think that they will follow a certain plan with me. And then they honestly tell me, they're like, you know what? I'm done with chicken. I don't want any chicken recipes for the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, all right, let's switch it up. So I think, keeping it exciting, purchasing like a keto cookbook with like good pictures that you can flip through and get inspired. I think that that's been one of the keys to my success and kind of how I approach my coaching is to just keep people interested and excited about what they're eating.
Yeah, that's the key. Just having that variety of food available to you. And funny story. When I started keto, I love cauliflower rice. But before starting on keto, I love rice. I eat rice every day, and so that's a huge part of our culture. Is just having rice on every meal. And so I had to have some type of rice. So I found cauliflower rice and I liked it. I loved it at first. And after a while, it was okay. And then months after, man, the smell of cauliflower, it's just, I'm so bored of it. I couldn't stand the smell. And so variety with food is one of the most important things when you want to be successful with keto.
Absolutely.
So last question for you.
Sure.
What do you love most about coaching?
I think, again, going back to my, the fact of being a science teacher, it breaks my heart that there is so much misinformation and there are so many people out there that feel isolated in their struggle. And they are at a loss with how to start and how to maintain. And, it would just be such a disservice for myself to have experienced success like this. And I know how to explain it to people and I know I can support them. And so that to me is like, I had to, like, coaching just became a necessary next step for me. And seeing people have that mentality shift and feel the mental clarity that comes with burning ketones and, their energy is through the roof. They're in a good mood all the time. They're seeing the success on the scale and in their measurements and their confidence. Like it changes people. And knowing that I may have played a small role in that, is just so rewarding. I do this as like a side business. I'm a science teacher as my career, but I think to some degree I will always keep this in my pocket because I think that it's so necessary for people to have a resource.
Yeah, it's so huge for you to be able to coach people on keto because there's so much misinformation we talked about earlier in this podcast. I love what you're doing. I keep doing it.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on.
Yes, thank you so much.
Where can people find you?
So I am on Instagram. My Instagram name is theketocoach.co. I also have a website that's the same name, so www.theketocoach.co. And I also have a Gmail that's the same name. But if you go to my website, it has like all the social media links. And it's pretty easy to reach me either through the contact form on my website or just sending me like a DM on Instagram. I know that that's how we got in touch with each other. You reached out, and the good thing is that I'm not a big corporation. It's just me. I've got close to 2,000 followers on Instagram, but it's definitely something that is still manageable for me in terms of I'm pretty responsive. I think I got back to your message like within a couple hours. So yeah, I just encourage people to take that step, and it can't hurt just to start a conversation and see where it goes.
So there you have it, guys. Reach out to Lindsay at theketocoach.co if you need that, accountability, if you need somebody that could help you, guide you with the keto diet. And no matter what phase you're in, it's important to have that somebody that would hold you accountable with this diet. So thank you so much, Lindsay. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
We could connect soon again, and hopefully, good luck with everything, and talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you so much.
So guys, there you have it. You have heard Coach Lindsay talk about the basics of keto and the importance of accountability to your keto journey. You can reach out to Coach Lindsay at www.theketocoach.co.